Morten, hello again. Tiago Labreca in direto para a Sporting TV. Let's talk a little about this Manchester City team, and I will give you two options and you choose, and you're going to explain to me why. This Manchester City is a team that no one wants to play and is like a big shark that everyone is afraid of, or is a team that every player have the dream to face off?
I can speak on the behalf of myself and our team, our Sporting, and we will always choose the second option.
Cristiano.
Hello, Morten. Cristiana Carazalves, SIC Notícias. Ruben said that the biggest difficulty in this process was telling to the players he is leaving the club. So how did you feel about this whole situation?
It was also difficult for me to hear. I was sad to hear that Ruben is leaving Sporting. He's leaving me as well. But in football, opportunities like this can happen for a coach and also for players. I think that's the normal part of football. And what I hope is that Ruben is proud of himself, that he gets an offer like this. I hope that for him.
RTP.
Hello, Morten. João Domingos for RTP. This change of technical team will be the biggest challenge that you will have as a captain of Sporting?
I see it as a positive challenge. To win the championship without Ruben will be our main objective of this season, and of course life goes on, and I think now we want to show that we don't need Ruben anymore.
TV, que é a frente.
Hi, Catarina Cardoso, TVI e CNN Portugal. How has it been the last week for the team, and for you especially? Did you feel, I don't know if it is the right word, betrayed somehow? Did you have the guarantee from your coach that he will stay until the end of the season? How do you feel about this whole change?
In football, you don't have any guarantees, I can tell you that. But it has been a very tough week. We played 3 games. The coach didn't give us any days off as well. So it has been tough also reading about what was going on and speaking with Ruben about the whole process. And still, as a team and as a player, you needed to win against Nacional and also against Estrela. So it was not easy. But like I said before, we are sad that Ruben is leaving, but we're now getting also a good coach, and a coach that we believe in. I believe that the president and all the other workers here in Sporting, they made the right choice by taking him, and I believe in them, and the fans believe in them as well. So we are in control of the situation for sure, and we need to remind ourselves still that the championship needs to be ours.
CMTV.
Hi, Pedro Neves de Souza, CMTV. Who is the best, Gyökeres or Haaland?
Who is the best player?
Striker.
Gyökeres, because he's plays in Sporting.
Uma questão ali para a imprensa inglesa, ali no meio, por favor.
Hi, Morten. Paul from The Times. Can you just explain a little bit to us about what Ruben is like as a coach? What are his best kind of attributes? I know it's a bit embarrassing because he's there, but how much has he developed your game and been a key part of your career?
Of course, Ruben was one of the reasons why I came to Sporting. I think when you work with Ruben, you get a clear picture of the way he sees football and the way he sees you inside the team. I think that picture for a player is very important when it's clear, because then he knows his role and he knows what he can bring to the team and what he can bring to Ruben. For me personally, that was important when I joined Sporting, to understand fast how the way he plays. And of course, you guys don't know it, but the way he's managing the team outside the pitch as well, but also inside the pitch, is not anything I've seen before in my short career. I hope it will be long. In details, I cannot, of course, tell you all of it, but I think Manchester are in good hands with Ruben.
Mais uma questão, em imprensa inglesa.
Morten, hello.
Hello.
Nice to speak to you. I wonder whether you're in a WhatsApp group with your national teammates, Rasmus and Christian, and if so, whether they WhatsApped you about Ruben and what you said to them.
If they talk with me about Ruben?
Yeah.
I haven't spoke with them yet. Maybe I will see them in the national break. It depends on the selection tomorrow from the team. So I haven't spoke with them, but of course I think they will have a million of questions when I see them next time.
Mais duas questões, tu Marco.
Further questions, please.
Nuno Mendes, Jornal O Jogo. I wanted to ask you about the national team. Brian Rimmer, the new Danish coach, recently said that we have only seen the tip of the Hjulmand's iceberg. And also that one day you will play for one of the biggest teams in England. Is it a dream for you to play in the Premier League?
I don't know if it's a dream for me to play in the Premier League. Right now, I'm feeling that I'm living the dream here in Sporting and living in Lisbon. That's a dream for me. But of course, it's a competitive championship. But I don't know what the future will bring. But right now, I'm living the dream here in Sporting.
Última questão, last question.
Hello, Morten. A few minutes ago, you told us that Sporting made a good choice with the new coach. I'm going to ask you what you think. Have you talked about with João Pereira and what you think about him? And can you tell us also if he's...
O treinador não está anunciado.
Só estou a dizer porque o capitão acabou de dizer que é uma boa escolha. Daí a minha pergunta. And if...
Pereira, because he said the new coach was a good...
I think that's the toughest opponent I played in my career. We know the quality of them. We have doing a lot of analysis of the way they play and how we expect them to play. So it will be a huge challenge for us tomorrow, for sure.
Muito obrigado. Thank you.
Obrigado.
Vamos prosseguir então com o nosso treinador Ruben Amorim.
We'll now have coach Ruben Amorim. Answers will be in Portuguese. There is an interpreter.
Respondido. Começamos pelo Tiago, ali à esquerda.
We will start with Tiago, please.
Boa tarde novamente, Miss.
Good afternoon.
Direto para a Sporting TV. Vamos ao...
Sporting TV. Let us look at what they say is the formula of Manchester City. I'm going to mention a few: Kevin De Bruyne, Jeremy Doku, Lewis, McCarthy, Riley, Ortega, Savit, Simpson, Wright. Players they were sitting on the bench in the last match. Although people say that Pep Guardiola is having a difficult time with the injuries, I think it is they have very good players on the bench to be playing against Sporting. And I would like to ask you about the conditions of Inácio and Quaresma. Quaresma has asked to join. Inácio will not be playing. We could risk using Inácio, but we will have a stoppage soon for the national team. Know if he's going to play in Braga, but we don't want to risk playing him today because he has to stop. He has been sacrificing himself for the team. We have to be careful because we have a very long championship and Inácio is a very important player for us. So we'll see in the next match if he's available or not. As regards Manchester City, every player in Manchester City, world-class player. Some players are sitting on the bench, some players will maybe used or not, we don't know, some players are out, but when we look at the 11 who are on the pitch and the others who are on bench, it's always very difficult. It's always very difficult to predict what's going to happen, on which positions they will take, on which side of the team they will be playing. So we have to be very strong in what we do. We believe in what we have to do, and we have to be brave when we face Manchester. Good afternoon. Joseph from SIC Noticias. I very carefully your latest press conference, but there are a few questions that I would like you to clarify now. You said, and I quote, after the Sporting, this is I want the context, I want the only team that moved me. Very clear. At the end of the last championship, you took a plane to negotiate with West Ham, which is not exactly Manchester United. Why did you go to UK if it wasn't a team that did not move you? One gets the impression that you wanted to leave Sporting at the end of the championship. You also said that you spoke with the president that the last championship would be probably your last. And why did you hang on? Well, we're going back to the same topic. I went to UK not to negotiate anything, but to know the owner of the team. I decided to stay because I thought I would stay in Portugal because I spoke with the president of Sporting. He convinced me to stay on for another year and decided to stay for another year. People want to ask the same question. People believe that I wanted to leave Sporting last year. Well, there's nothing I can do about it. It was not the case. I will not repeat myself. I accepted this from Manchester United. I've already explained why I accepted it, and the proof that this was the only team that moved me is that I accepted their proposal, their offer.
Olá, Ruben.
Hello, Ruben António Botelho from TSF. First of all, I wish you all the best when you win your new challenge with Manchester United, and thank you for being very honest and transparent over the years when taking the floor during press conferences. Two questions, one on the match 3 years ago when you faced City. Ruben said at the end of the match that you were not prepared yet because the coach of City had been with the team for too many years, and Ruben said, you said you were not such a good coach as Pep Guardiola. Now, I would like to ask you, after 5 years of Sporting with Ruben Amorim, do you think Sporting is more competitive now, and also considering whether Manchester is at a good moment in their life, considering that they've lost the past 2 games? And one final question regarding renewal of your question. You said a few weeks ago that the president had put the renewal of contract on the table, and at the last press conference you said you had decided to leave, and President Varandas said that he was planning the next next season with a new coach. Well, let me begin with this. That makes sense. Yes, I spoke with the president of the club, and at the time he said, I know that you have already decided what you're going to do, but whatever you decide, you will always have the possibility to renew with us. When I said that, I think during the press conference for Stormgrass, after the Stormgrass press, there was nothing yet prepared. The idea was, the plan was to leave the club at the end of the So during the meeting where I said that I was going to leave, the president said, yes, change your mind, you will always have the possibility to renew a contract with us. You can always speak to us. So one thing doesn't contradict the other. Having the possibility to renew my contract is independent from the fact that I wanted or not to leave the team at the end of the season. That was the reason. As regards, I think that I am now a better coach than I was before, but when we look to the last 5 years, we have 2 different teams. There are Inácio Popot and one other player from the first team. So we have to look at 5 years, but we cannot use 5 years working with the same players. We are talking here about 2 different teams, 2 different contexts. I also feel that I'm a better coach. Unfortunately, I think that Pep Guardiola, after 5 years, is an even better coach, and the distance between us is still the same. Besides, we play in different leagues, and with all due respect to the players I had at the time, 5 years ago, I think that today I have better players, or players that are prepared to play more fully, in a more complete way. But I also think that Manchester City is a team that is more complete. It's more difficult to predict what Manchester City is going to do. We'll see tomorrow what happens. I think tomorrow we'll have a chance to see all the nuances and see what happens. I hope that the outcome is different from what happened a few years ago, but we'll have to see. Good afternoon.
Vou-lhe colocar duas questões.
For RTP, two questions. One, do you think that tomorrow all the television stations in Manchester will be looking at you and looking at what you do? Undoubtedly. I'm sure that people from Manchester will be looking at what I do. But my focus right now is Sporting. I'm going to be assessed as the coach of Sporting. It will be a success. It will not be a failure because losing against Manchester City is not a failure, but I will be assessed as a coach of Sporting. But I am fully aware that I will be assessed as a coach for this game. And of course, depending on the outcome of the match, I'm sure that people in Manchester will be looking very carefully at all the details of the match, how we play, how we fight, and especially the outcome of the match. My focus is to win the game for Sporting so that we can join the playoff of the Champions League. Another question. We feel already a certain nostalgia because we think about you leaving, and I would like to ask you if you feel the same. If for a millionth of a second you thought that it was the wrong decision. No, I've never thought that I had made the wrong decision. I haven't as yet the time to feel nostalgia about being with Sporting, because as you will understand, there are so many things that have to be dealt with, so many things to do. I cannot think of another coach who lived through what I'm living now, but I'm sure that soon or later I will feel nostalgia for my country, my players, the club, maybe at the end of the match, because it will be my last match in the Alvalade Stadium. But right now I don't have the time to feel anything particular. We'll wait for the last match we have against Braga, and then perhaps I will feel that nostalgia. Ricardo Rocha, once again, when you enter the match, do you think that a draw would be a good outcome for Sporting, especially considering what you said about the quality of Manchester City? And also thinking about this duel between Alan and Gyökeres, I would like to ask you whether you would change Gyökeres for Alan. Well, we're not going to say that I would change any player of my team for any player of another team. For me, the players in my team are the best players, and Victor played wonderfully in our last match. So I would never change any of the players in my team for any other player in any other team. Regarding the draw, well, I cannot answer that. When we enter the stadium, we enter the stadium to win the games. It's part of our DNA. Those forced from CNN Portugal. Going back to your previous press conference, I would like to clarify one point. You said that you had told President Frederico Varandas that this would be your last season with a contract until 2026. You had already planned that you would leave by mutual agreement. Could you clarify this? And my second question for you is, a lot has been said. It's a tradition before and after the games, especially after the games during the Premier League. There is a tradition for coaches to talk to one another. Will you start that tomorrow, talking to Pep Guardiola? Well, I don't know if that tradition of coaches mixing with one another. Well, we come from a very different culture. You don't expect me and Conceição, the Porto coach, to drink a glass of wine after the match. But of course, when we change to another culture, we have to adapt to that culture. It's not a culture that adapts to us, so we'll have time to do that, to mix with other trainers. As regards the contract, well, everything has been provided for in the contract. I know how football works, and to avoid situations at the end of the season, are you staying, are you leaving? We had prepared and drafted the contract so that there would be no issue, no problem with my departure from the club. So I will not enter into details, but that was part of the contract. Pedro Neves de Sousa, CMTV. I'm going to ask a few questions. Tomorrow,
Sua despedida em Alvalade, se
how will you say goodbye from Alvalade? Are you more anxious than you were when you first arrived at Sporting? No, I feel the same. I'm more anxious about the match. I'm feeling stressed about the match because we had a plan. Then City played with Bournemouth and he changed the strategy. And I'm always stressed when I don't know what's going to happen. They change the strategy and I don't know what to expect now. As regards my departure from, I feel more confident now, and especially when I entered Alvalade and now that I'm leaving, I feel at ease. I'm not thinking about saying goodbye. I will be saying goodbye to Alvalade, but the goodbye will be in Braga. But as long as we have a match to play, I will be focused on the match, and that's it.
perfeita para amanhã era
However, the perfect night for tomorrow would be a victory, winning the match and having the stadium applauding you. That would be the perfect way of saying goodbye to Alvalade. And I'm going to control your emotions. Well, I'm going to control my emotions for sure, but perfect would be to win the match. If I win the match, even though people are whistling and protesting against me, I will be happy because if we win the match tomorrow, we will have the playoff more or less guaranteed, and so winning tomorrow would like to see. Much football. I would have two questions for you. One question concerning the other team and the other change for Manchester United. As regards Manchester City, what ideas have you extracted and what kind of ideas has ideas from Pep Guardiola have inspired your work? And then as regards your change to Manchester United, you have a career as a player and as a coach. Always nationally in Portugal, a domestic career. You were only in the Middle East for a short while. Don't you think this is a big step, considering that you will be playing in a Premier League? And now, as regards communication, you have always been praised for the way in which you communicated with players and with the press. Now you'll be talking to players in English and with the press. Will that be an issue? Well, talking about communication, well, I will be more simple in my communications. I will not be as sophisticated because I will be speaking in, I think that 3 months will be enough. I think that's what Robin said. Now, as regards the players, communication will be the same because players to players, I provide them explanations in English. So I think with regards to the communication with the players, there will be no issue. I give indications in English to Victor, to Morten, to Morita, to Usman, and so for them there will be an issue. The adaptation, of course, will be different, but my life will consider be the same. I have a certain idea of how to play, a certain idea about how to work. I will be more basic at the beginning when I communicate with the press. As regards
do Mr. Pep Guardiola.
What I extracted from Pep Guardiola, from his teachings, also from him, from Jorge Jesus, because I was trained by Jorge Jesus, and from other coaches as well. I see a lot of matches from everywhere, and I draw inspiration from all sorts of places. There isn't one single coach. I look at the coaches that I feel are the best in the world, some with which I identify, or some other coaches as well that have a different approach to the game, but there are always ideas from other coaches that one can use. So Pep Guardiola, of course, was an inspiration for me and for many other coaches in the world.
Ruben. Nuno Mendes para o jornal O Jogo. Foi anunciada a saída do Viana para o Manchester City.
Anna left for Manchester City. Ruben said that Sporting only needs the fans because you have a plan. Is that applicable to the departure of the coach? Is Sporting prepared for your departure? Yes, it is. You've heard the captain. He said very clearly that they don't need a coach anymore. They are very, very mature players.
E entendem muito bem os...
And they understand very well what is expected of them. They are prepared, and I think that this will not be of a major difference for them in the end. Of course, there will be a change, but the team is prepared and the team is mature enough to move forward.
Olá, boa tarde, Ruben. João Ribeiro, Record.
Our newspaper, I would like to ask you if tomorrow, when you play against Manchester City, you will identity of Sporting. Sporting is a team that presses very high, and that is very risky strategy. Will you be brave enough to do that in your last match in Alvalade? And as regards Ruben, you said you would never play Gyökeres against Hjulmand because that would cause some tension, but
3 semanas.
well, we haven't trained for 3 weeks. We don't have trained. Some players are always recovering. Osman has been injured. Victor has to play always and has to recover from previous matches, so we have never trained. But there have been training sessions where they have played together. Alan plays to look for the ball next to goalpost. Victor plays differently. We haven't been able to train our central defenders because we don't have much time. As regards the first question,
nós queremos manter...
we want to keep our identity when we have the ball, and the ability to keep the ball will be important. That's the way we play. Well, we have to adapt ourselves. It doesn't have to do with being brave. Sometimes coaches who adapt themselves to be competitive and to win the matches are more courageous than others, than to think that my company is 0% of hypothesis to win the match if we press forward all the time. Despite all their quality, there is no keeper in the Portuguese league that can send the ball as long away as Ederson does. So Ederson is a player that changes the dynamics of our team. So tomorrow we'll be fighting to have a good result. So when we have the ball, we have to play the way we are used to, because we don't know how to play differently. So as regards our defensive work, we'll have to adapt ourselves a little.
Simon Stone, BBC. I won't put a percentage on it, but there'll be quite a few people in Manchester looking at the game tomorrow, kind of looking at it almost as a mini Manchester derby, because their manager is going to be playing against Manchester City. How do you feel about that? And how do you feel going into this game, knowing that in 6 weeks' time, you'll be playing the same team in another context?
É muito por aí.
Well, the contexts are very, very different, as you said, and I'm not thinking about what people think. Tomorrow I will be the coach of Sporting and of Sporting only. From day 11 onwards, I will be the coach of Manchester United. I'm not naive, and I know that people will be drawing conclusions from the outcome of the match tomorrow, but don't worry about that, truly. The focus now is to win for Sporting, to be coach for Sporting. Regardless of what happens tomorrow, I will be assessed as the coach of Sporting. From the 11th onwards, I will be assessed as the coach of Manchester United. I understand the interest of people in Manchester, but for me, it's more a match of Sporting against one of the best teams in the world.
Hi, Ruben. Pete from the newspaper in the UK. With Hugo going to Manchester City at the end of the season, when you were thinking about your future plans, whether now or whether at the end of the season or whether in a few years' time, did it ever come into your thoughts that one day I could be at Manchester City with him?
Obviamente.
Well, obviously.
Que isso passa pela...
It has to do well, that's something that crosses one's mind, but I never had any doubts. My decision has been made, and that's the club I want to work for, that's the context I want to work in, and that's where I want to continue my career as a coach. Of course, that's something that crosses one's mind, that crossed my mind, but when I decided for the club that I want, and I didn't want anything else. So the decision is a decision that I thought about, but I was not undecided about it. I wanted Manchester United, and that's what I did.
Ruben, hello. Do you know what we miss?
What?
Your wonderful English.
Sorry.
Can we have one answer in English for all people who are going to be watching this game, interested in Manchester City, in Sporting and in Manchester United? One answer in English.
You'll have time you'll have time to hear Ruben speaking English. Now it's time for him to speak.
Have Manchester United asked you not to speak in English?
No.
I wondered if you were aware that obviously to win tomorrow night will be brilliant for your current club, but also brilliant for your new club. You could be a hero even before you get on a plane to Manchester. Has that crossed your mind? In English, please.
Sorry, I cannot speak in English now.
Why?
Sorry.
Why?
Sorry. They will miss me in Portuguese, so I have to speak Portuguese.
They've had about 25 minutes in Portuguese.
I know.
We want 10 seconds in English.
We'll proceed in Portuguese. Next week, you can hear him talking English. Okay.
Yes. More basic English.
It's like a cold shoulder to all your English fans.
Sorry. Eu não penso nisso.
Well, I don't think about that. My focus, as I said, is in winning the match tomorrow and winning it for Sporting. Then, the conclusions that people will draw from this match are not important for me because they could be erroneous. If it's a very negative outcome, the expectations will drop. And I think that's not exactly a poor starting point when I start with Manchester United. If we win tomorrow, people will think that the new Alex Ferguson has arrived. And of course, it will be difficult to live up to that expectation. So regardless of what the conclusions that people will draw tomorrow, I'm not interested in them. What I'm interested in is to win the match, have a good departure from Alvalade, then win in Braga, and after that start a new life in Manchester United. So we could have one situation or the other. It could increase expectations. I don't know what is better for me when I start my new adventure in Manchester. What I want is to leave the Sporting fans and my players happy and to qualify my team for the playoff.
Hi, Ruben. Paul Hurst from The Times.
Paul Hurst, The Times.
I was reading an interview with you from a few years ago when you were talking about Jose Mourinho and how much of an impact he's had on your career. I was just wondering, have you spoken to him since you accepted the United job? And obviously you went to United for a week under his instruction at the training ground. I just wonder how much of an impact that had on you and whether you think it will help you going forward.
Eu ainda não falei com
o
José Amorim sobre isso. Ele também está.
So far, he's very busy with the matches of his team.
Simplesmente foi, eu fiz a pós-graduação
on my career. I completed the post-grad course that was designed by him at the faculty. The greatest impact was the way in which he dealt with me. That's the greatest impact he had on my life, on my career. He showed me that
uma pessoa completamente diferente daquilo.
One can win everything and be a very different person from what people think, from the public persona. So he was a coach who opened the door for many of us. He was a very important player when he turned up. We knew that his teams would win, and that was something that marked us as Portuguese football fans, because we started thinking or believing more in our teams. I will have an opportunity in the future to speak with Mourinho about many issues. He's very experienced. person. As regards the week I spent in Manchester, yes, it was very interesting. I spent a week there, an internship, so to speak.
Foi há 7 anos, acho eu.
A long time ago, I think it was 7 years ago, but it was not decisive in my decision. So maybe the only team where I did a one-week internship, which was Manchester United. Well, I'm now going back as the principal coach.
The Guardian newspaper.
Jackson.
Just a question about tomorrow's game. How much can you trying to beat Manchester City tomorrow with Sporting help you for when you take over Manchester United and you play City in December in the first derby, and then the reverse fixture later on in the season? How much can it help you?
Eu acho que irá ser uma.
Well, I think that tomorrow and the match tomorrow will help me. We learn a lot during the matches. One thing is to watch the games on television. Another thing is to see it live and play against them. And then how our idea of a game plays out against the idea of the other coach and of the other team. Of course, when I go to Manchester United, we'll have an opportunity to speak about that. I have a different idea, but I don't know exactly what I'm going to find, how the players are, how they play. But I think that, of course, playing against Manchester City with Sporting tomorrow will be very important, will be very helpful for what I will be doing in the future.